Most people think the 1980s already gave us its best movies. They're wrong. Because while everyone's rewatching The Breakfast Club and Back to the Future for the 100th time, there are classic movies from the 1980s that are so insanely good, so criminally slept on, that Hollywood doesn't want you to remember they exist. These movies confused audiences, they scared studios, movies with performances that deserved Oscars, soundtracks that should have topped charts, and stories so bold they make today's blockbusters look like they were written by a committee of accountants. And here's the kicker. Many of these films feel more relevant now than they ever did back then. Their ideas hit harder. Their risks feel refreshing. And once you see them, you'll realize how badly history got it wrong. Today, we're uncovering 15 lost 80s classics so criminally underrated, you'll regret not watching sooner. Movies that should have been remembered. Movies that deserved better. And proving failure does not mean forgetting for good. Number 15. Miracle, Mile, 1988. It starts like a gentle romance, almost disarmingly normal. A chance meeting at a museum. Two strangers talking through the night. The kind of connection that feels fragile and rare. When Harry promises to call Julie at midnight, it feels like the beginning of something hopeful. And then the phone rings. The voice on the other end is panicked, breathless, barely coherent. A man claims missiles have launched. Nuclear war has already begun. Los Angeles has minutes left. Harry thinks it's a prank. Then the call cuts off. What follows is one of the most unsettling tonal shifts in 1980s cinema. Miracle Mile transforms from a dreamy love story into a real-time descent into panic. Harry races across the city trying to find Julie, but every street he turns down reveals a different stage of collapse. Radio stations descend into chaos. Authorities disappear. Information contradicts itself. No one knows what's true, only that something feels horribly wrong. The brilliance of Miracle Mile is restrained. There are no explosions lighting up the sky, no heroic speeches, just confusion, fear, and the terrifying possibility that the end might arrive quietly, without confirmation. People react in small, human ways. Some deny everything. Some exploit the moment. Some freeze. And some, like Harry, cling to the idea that love might still matter, even if time is running out. And if this movie showed how fragile the world can feel in a single night, the next one proves how easily a great film can vanish simply by being released at the wrong time. Number 14. Near Dark, 1987. It slipped into theaters during a crowded summer and barely made a sound. Released just weeks after a flashier vampire hit, Near Dark never stood a chance. The film follows a drifter pulled into a nomadic group of vampires who don't live in castles or hide in shadows. They move from town to town, feeding, running, and barely surviving. There's no elegance here, no glamour, just hunger, violence, and the slow erosion of humanity. These vampires feel less like monsters and more like addicts, trapped in a cycle they can't escape. That tone confused people in 1987. It wasn't scary in a traditional way, and it wasn't fun either. Critics didn't know how to frame it, and marketing couldn't explain it, so it disappeared. Years later, Near Dark is finally seen for what it is, a genre-bending nightmare that treats immortality as a curse, not a fantasy. Gritty, intimate, and relentlessly bleak. And Near Dark vanished because it shared the spotlight. The next film disappeared because studios never knew how to sell it at all. Number 13. Angel Heart, 1987. On the surface, it looks like a hard-boiled detective story. A private investigator is hired to track down a missing man. New Orleans, jazz clubs, smoke-filled rooms. Everything feels familiar, even comforting. But from the moment the case begins, something feels off. Clues don't add up, witnesses disappear, and every answer opens the door to something far darker. As the investigation deepens, the film slowly sheds its noir skin and reveals what it's really doing. This isn't a mystery about solving a crime. It's a descent, one built on guilt, identity, and consequences that can't be escaped. The horror doesn't come from jump scares. It comes from realization, from the creeping sense that the truth has been hiding in plain sight the entire time. In 1987, Angel Heart made audiences deeply uncomfortable. Its imagery was provocative. Its themes were unsettling. Controversy swallowed the conversation, and many critics dismissed it outright. That reaction buried the film's craft, atmosphere, and confidence. Today, it plays like a masterclass in slow-burn dread, patient, hypnotic, and devastating once it clicks. And what comes next blurred the movie genres in a way no one knew how to handle. Number 12, Dead Ringers, 1988. At first glance, Dead Ringers plays like a clinical drama about two brilliant twin gynecologists working at the top of their field. Calm offices, precise language, professional detachment. But that surface normality doesn't last long. Beneath it lies a disturbing psychological fracture that slowly consumes everything. The twins are identical in appearance but not in temperament. One is controlled and dominant. The other is fragile and dependent. As their personal and professional lives bleed together, boundaries dissolve. Obsession replaces discipline. Identity begins to blur. What unfolds isn't horror driven by violence, but by intimacy pushed too far and minds collapsing in real time. When Dead Ringers was released, audiences recoiled. The subject matter felt cold, uncomfortable, and deeply personal. Studios didn't know how to promote it, and many viewers avoided it entirely. It was labeled disturbing and quietly set aside. Time has been far kinder. Today, it's recognized as a chilling character study and one of the most unsettling films of the decade. Not because it shocks, but because it never looks away. Coming up is a film that didn't disturb audiences with psychology, but disappeared because its ambition clashed headfirst with expectations. Number 11, The Quiet Earth, 1985. A man wakes up to find the world completely empty. No traffic, no voices, no bodies, just silence stretching across cities and highways. At first, it feels like freedom. He takes cars, money, houses, anything he wants. But as days pass, the absence stops feeling like a gift and starts feeling like a punishment. The Quiet Earth isn't interested in spectacle. There are no monsters, no explosions, no obvious enemy. The danger comes from isolation and the slow erosion of the mind. As other survivors eventually appear, hope briefly returns, only to be complicated by jealousy, fear, and the lingering question of what actually caused the disappearance. When the film arrived in the mid-80s, it was largely ignored. It was too quiet for sci-fi fans expecting action, and too bleak for mainstream audiences looking for comfort. Its ideas were heavy, philosophical, and unsettling. Today, it feels eerily modern, a thoughtful, haunting meditation on loneliness and consequence that trusts the audience to sit with discomfort. Up next is a movie that didn't vanish because it was subtle, but because its tone caught viewers completely off guard. Number 10, They Live, 1988. John Nada arrives in Los Angeles with nothing but a backpack and a job site, drifting through a city that barely notices him. Then he finds a box of sunglasses. Once he puts them on, the world reveals its real face. Billboards turn into commands, money exposes hidden messages. Authority figures are no longer human at all. What makes They Live dangerous isn't aliens or weapons. It's the idea that control doesn't need violence. It just needs repetition, comfort, and obedience. Society keeps moving because no one is encouraged to question what they see. When Nada tries to wake people up, the resistance is fierce. Not because they love the system, but because facing the truth feels worse. In 1988, critics brushed it off as silly or blunt. Audiences didn't know what to do with its anger. Over time, its reputation flipped. Today, it's seen as one of the most biting satires of the decade, fearless in its message and shockingly relevant. The next film didn't attack society head-on. It disappeared by quietly asking what happens when technology stops caring about us at all. Number 9, Dreamscape, 1984. The idea sounds like fantasy. Scientists discover a way to enter dreams, allowing trained psychics to walk through another person's subconscious. At first, the technology is used for therapy and research, healing trauma, exploring the mind. But that promise doesn't last long. Someone realizes dreams can be weaponized. Dreamscape moves between wonder and dread with unsettling ease. Nightmares become battlegrounds. Fear takes physical form. What happens in the dream leaves real consequences behind. The film leans into imagination, creating surreal landscapes that feel playful one moment and deeply threatening the next. Audiences in 1984 weren't sure how to take it. It wasn't dark enough to be horror, and it wasn't light enough to be pure fantasy. Marketing struggled to define it, and critics treated it like disposable entertainment. That reaction buried how inventive it really was. Seen now, Dreamscape feels ahead of its time, a smart blend of sci-fi and psychological thriller that explores privacy, power, and the dangers of unchecked innovation. And coming up is a movie that didn't fade because it lacked imagination, but because it arrived before viewers were ready to confront how fragile the future really looked. Number 8, Repo Man. In 1984, Repo Man follows Otto, a bored punk with no direction who falls into the strange world of car repossession. What starts as a dead-end job quickly turns surreal when a mysterious Chevy Malibu enters the picture. The trunk contains something valuable, something radioactive, and everyone wants it. The movie refuses to explain itself. Government agents speak in riddles. Cult figures hover at the edges of scenes. Violence erupts without build-up. Conversations feel random but loaded. Underneath the chaos is a sharp satire about consumerism, authority, and a generation with nothing to believe in. In 1984, audiences were confused. It wasn't polished, it wasn't heroic, it didn't care about likable characters or clean resolutions. Studios didn't know how to market a sci-fi punk comedy that actively mocked structure itself, so it slipped through the cracks. Today, Repo Man feels fearless, loud, cynical, and strangely prophetic, a cult classic that never asked for permission. And what comes next is a film that didn't just confuse viewers with chaos, but also unsettled them by showing technology as something deeply invasive. Number 7, Videodrome, 1983. It begins with a television signal that shouldn't exist. A pirate broadcast showing raw violence with no context, no story, and no explanation. Max Wren, a sleazy TV executive desperate for something new, sees opportunity instead of danger. That decision costs him everything. Videodrome slowly dismantles reality. Hallucinations bleed into waking life. Flesh and technology merge. Screens stop being objects and start becoming extensions of the body. The film never clarifies what's real, and that's the point. Control doesn't come from force, it comes from exposure. The imagery was disturbing. The ideas felt obscene. Critics fixated on shock and ignored the warning underneath. The movie vanished into controversy. Decades later, Videodrome's message feels unavoidable. Media reshaping identity, technology rewriting perception, entertainment becoming influence. Videodrome didn't predict the future with comfort, it predicted it with horror. Still ahead is a film that wasn't rejected for being extreme, but for being so quiet and bleak that audiences didn't know how to sit with it. Number 6, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, 1984. From its opening minutes, this movie dares the audience to keep up. Buckaroo Banzai is a rock star, neurosurgeon, physicist, and action hero all at once. He leads a band of scientists. He cracks interdimensional barriers between concerts, and he does it all without stopping to explain himself. The film drops you into a fully formed universe and expects you to swim. That confidence is exactly why it failed in 1984. Audiences didn't know how to process a story that refused handholding. Studios had no idea how to market something this strange, funny, and smart at the same time. Was it sci-fi, comedy, satire, adventure? The answer was yes, and that confused everyone. What time revealed is how carefully constructed it really is. The dialogue is razor sharp. The world building is dense but playful. The humor comes from commitment, not jokes. Today, Buckaroo Banzai feels like a cult treasure that arrived decades too early. And coming up is a film that didn't confuse people with excess imagination, but alienated them by showing a future that felt far too real. Number 5, Brazil, 1985. Brazil follows a low-level bureaucrat trapped inside a nightmarish system powered by paperwork, malfunctioning technology, and endless rules no one understands. His only escape comes through vivid dreams of heroism and flight, visions that clash violently with his suffocating reality. The film's world is absurd on the surface, but deeply unsettling underneath. Machines break constantly, errors go uncorrected, Authority hides behind procedure. Individual lives are crushed by systems that claim efficiency while producing chaos. It's funny until it isn't. When Brazil was released, studios panicked. The tone was too bleak, the ending too uncompromising. Executives pushed alternate cuts, diluting its impact. Years later, Brazil is widely recognized as a masterpiece. Its themes feel sharper with age, surveillance, bureaucracy, and dehumanization no longer feel exaggerated. They feel familiar. Still ahead is a movie that didn't warn about systems collapsing, but asked what happens when humanity itself becomes the experiment. Number 4, The Fly, 1986. It begins as a breakthrough, not a nightmare. Seth Brundle is a brilliant but socially awkward scientist on the verge of changing the world. His invention promises instant transportation, a technology that could rewrite human limits. When the first tests succeed, it feels like triumph. Then one small mistake turns progress into something horrifying. As Brundle's body begins to change, the film shifts from science fiction into tragedy. This isn't a monster on the loose, it's a man slowly losing himself while fully aware of what's happening. His intelligence remains, his emotions remain, but his body betrays him piece by piece. Audiences in 1986 focused on the shock. The transformation effects were talked about more than the meaning behind them. The Fly was treated as body horror first and everything else second. That reaction overshadowed what the film was really exploring. Fear of illness, fear of aging, fear of watching someone you love disappear while they're still alive. Time reframed it. Today, The Fly is widely seen as one of the most heartbreaking films of the decade, a love story disguised as horror. And next is a movie that didn't devastate through transformation, but through isolation so complete it felt unbearable. Number 3, Threads, 1984. There is no build-up here, no heroic warning, just ordinary people living ordinary lives in a small English city. When global tensions escalate, the film doesn't linger on politics. It stays with families, workers, children, then everything collapses. Threads depicts nuclear catastrophe with brutal realism. There is no spectacle, no comfort. Survival isn't triumphant, it's miserable. Society doesn't rebuild quickly or neatly, it decays. Generation after generation grows up in a world stripped of language, knowledge, and hope. When Threads aired, the reaction was immediate and intense. Viewers were shaken. Broadcasters hesitated to repeat it. The film was considered too bleak, too honest, too damaging. Today, it stands as one of the most devastating films ever made. Not just sci-fi, but cinema. It doesn't ask what if, it shows what happens. Still to come is a film that terrified audiences not with destruction, but with how easily reality itself could be rewritten. Number 2, Blade Runner, 1982. When Blade Runner first hit theaters, it didn't feel like a future people wanted to live in. The world it presented was cold, crowded, and emotionally distant. The story follows a hunter tasked with tracking down artificial humans who look, think, and feel real. But the deeper he goes, the more the line between human and machine dissolves. The replicants aren't raging monsters. They're afraid. They want more life, more time, and that desire makes the question uncomfortable. If something can feel loss, fear, and love, what actually separates it from us? In 1982, this pacing confused viewers. The tone felt bleak. The questions had no easy answers. Studio interference didn't help, burying the film's intent under compromises. It underperformed and was quickly labeled a failure. Time reversed that judgment. Blade Runner is now considered one of the most influential films ever made. Its themes grow heavier with every passing year, and what comes next goes even further, stripping away futurism entirely to expose a reality hiding in plain sight. Number 1, To Live and Die in L.A., 1985. A federal agent was gunned down in broad daylight. No warning, no build-up, just chaos. From that moment on, the film never settles into comfort. This is Los Angeles stripped of glamour, a city of counterfeits, obsession, and moral decay, hiding behind sunshine and freeways. The story follows a Secret Service agent who becomes dangerously consumed with hunting a brilliant counterfeiter. What starts as duty turns personal. Rules bend, ethics erode, the pursuit becomes reckless, and the line between lawman and criminal starts to blur. The movie refuses to reassure you that the right people are in control. When it was released, audiences didn't know how to react. It was too cold, too cynical, too unforgiving. The tone felt cruel, and the choices it made shocked viewers who expected justice to look familiar. That discomfort pushed it aside. Years later, the film feels razor-sharp. Its tension is relentless. Its ending fearless. Its worldview brutally honest. This wasn't a thriller meant to entertain. It was one meant to confront. And that's why it belongs at number 1. Let us know in the comments which movie you're watching first and which forgotten 80s film deserves a second chance. If you love uncovering buried cinema, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to Vintacine Vault for more deep dives into the movies history tried to leave behind.